So, welcome everybody. My name is Emilio Garcia. Today, Gabby Garcia is with me as well, and this is the Greenville HUG. We host a series of events for HubSpot users, and we typically cover things within the platform that might be of interest to most of you, varying from beginner topics, going through intermediate and advanced, and walking through the marketing hub, the sales hub, the customer success hub, and even the CMS itself. So the topics vary. We get together every month, usually around the first or second week of the month. And today we are going to talk about HubSpot reporting. And for those of you that are joining us for the first time, this is just like a regular Zoom platform. I will call it that way. So you can make questions on the chat here. Let me say hi, right? And submit any questions that you might have. One of the things that I usually ask is share with us where are you joining from, right? Most of the members of the chapter are from Greenville, but when we do these events online, usually people from around the country and the world even join. So I'm always happy to know where are you coming from. So share in the chat where are you joining from, and as I go through the presentation, Toronto, nice. As I go through the presentation, feel free to ask questions. I usually answer most of them at the end. And finally, Boston, Cincinnati, okay, UK, nice, Leanne. And finally, if you feel that you want to say something or ask something or share something with the group, feel free to do so. That's the best, right? If we can have that interaction, that's the best. I'm happy, this is not a group where I will just share what I know, but I will actually like to, there are many cases and industries where HubSpot is being used, where sharing something of value for the rest of the community will be highly helpful. So without further ado, let me start sharing here the screen. Let me look for that presentation. And I think I will share the entire screen. That will be better. Um, all right.
I think I just Joe. I don't want to be rude. It's just that I wanted to make it like the presentation or presentation mode off. So if you want to say something, anything, just let me know here in the chat. It's a thing that happens eventually here on the platform. And another thing that I wanted to tell you guys is that the questions and answers room is been enabled now, so you can actually make a question there, and we will be happy to answer that.
Hmm.
And that's it. That's all I wanted to say.
Very good. All righty. Well, let us start. Just please tell me that you are seeing my presentation, right, or the presentation here. If you can confirm, Gabby, you see it, right? Gabby?
It shows your windows, but not actually the presentation.
Oh, no, you don't see the presentation?
No, it's another window. I don't know if anyone else sees that way.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a present.
Oh, yeah. It looks like there's a little bit of a delay. Let me do it again. Window, and or I will just change. And okay, I'm moving into the presentation again here. Yeah, you're able to see it?
It's another window, like your.
Oh, I know what it is. Yes, it is.
It says
Uh,
it says in browser. Yes.
yeah. And now it should be working.
Yes.
All righty, very good. So once again, Emilio Garcia, that's my name. We
You
are
can
yeah,
it shows the presentation, but I have to make it like the whole presentation. It just shows.
yeah.
Mhm.
The slideshow.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's going to show the whole thing, but let me just pot it up here, and so hopefully there everybody can see it a little bit better. So my name is Emilio Garcia, again, managing partner of Bountify. We are a demand generation agency. that we use or work with HubSpot to provide some of the services that we do for our clients, basically around creating and capturing demand for B2B companies. I am most active on LinkedIn. That's where you can find me. I'm always happy to make new connections. So feel free to reach out. We also run demand gen, a specific kind of event. We call it Demand Gen Studio. So if you are interested on that particular segment or field of the marketing landscape, um, just visit it there. You can watch, you can listen. We have different formats, so it will be happy. I mean, we'll be excited to know that you want to learn more about demand generation. And as I was saying as well, Gabby is with us, and she helped me with all the things related to the production of the event. And thank you, Gabby. And also, if you have any questions, you can see she was suggesting maybe put on the chat, and we can discuss them at the end of the presentation. What are we going to talk about today? Today, we're going to talk about HubSpot reporting, right? And this is a tool that I have seen grown over the years incredibly, right? It started very simple with very not easy to customize reports and not a lot of options to look at the data and do changes. And it has evolved into a big business intelligence tool, right? It's still obviously not as good as maybe dedicated applications. And there's still a lot of, I feel, integrations that will be helpful to have so we can visualize more data in different formats and objects. I actually have one particular thing that I don't like, which is there's no concept of progression for accounts, just for contacts and for deals. But overall is moving in the right direction. So we will discuss everything about HubSpot reporting to give you an idea of with the things that probably you don't know about, and you can explore on your own later on. So there's going to be a little bit of introduction, fundamentals on and data-driven businesses, a little bit about data in general, and how you can unpack the information that is on the CRM, and understanding how the data is organized. Because when you have a clear understanding of that, then you are capable of creating reports that answer good questions. So going to be a little bit of that. I will move between the presentation and some of the things that you can see directly on the portal, which will be helpful. And as well, at the end, if you have a specific questions or something you want to say, just let me know and we can dive into that. I might not have the answer for everything, but at least I can guide you in the right direction. So why is this module important? Well, because we want to make as much as possible data-driven decision, right? And I don't subscribe to the idea that uh, every decision has to be made only by the data that you have, because it's subject to interpretation and the quality of the data itself. And you can take a set and make a story about it in the positive or negative way. So I feel that data is an important component, but you still need intuition, assumptions, knowledge of previous patterns. But at the end of the day, what we definitely want to prevent us from doing is to making decisions solely on assumptions or solely in intuition. We want to rather complement that with data. And usually in the realm of revenue operations, that data will come from the departments and operations, from marketing, from sales, for customer success, and even from the website itself. And that's in a nutshell what we want to accomplish with HubSpot reporting. Some of the examples of things that are done better using data. For example, if you analyze user behavior, which usually is around the website itself, or if you analyze the quality of the database that you have on your CRM, the type of companies, their sizes, the revenue, or the contacts, right? If are they decision makers? What is their behavior? What is the kind of seniority that you have on the contacts that you belong to your database, for example, right? If you are conducting user research, then there's all these surveys and things that you can do from a customer success point of view, as well as the feedback that you will get from support channels that will help you make decisions on the size of the support team and the topics that you need to add to your knowledge base, so people don't get the same questions all the time, right? So those are some examples of the data decision that you got to do. And you want to have the ability of read, write, and communicate that data, right? So you want to be able first to collect it, which I believe is one of the key strengths of HubSpot, right? That becomes that source or that place where you can collect all that information coming from all these different departments. Then you want to find a way to manage that data. And for that, you need models. And those models should reflect the objects of interest of the company and the properties that those objects will have. And you need to have a clear idea of that. And eventually, you transform that information into something visual that can help you to communicate story and to make decisions, right? So that's key. So in each of the stages, you will need different things, but basically, going down, collecting the data part will be your CRM, at least for the demand portion of the operation, right? The supply side of a company will usually be managed by the ERP. But for the demand side, usually the CRM hold most of the information. And one recommendation that I have here for those of you that are using HubSpot partially, or that are thinking on using the software at higher level, is that you can always do this on stages. You don't have to move everything into HubSpot from day one. You can start maybe with the mailing platform, platform, for example, right? You're migrating from another tool and you start with your email database. So you start moving your contacts and eventually companies. And then you can migrate some of the user behavior on the website through landing pages, eventually your blog, and finally your website, for example, if you want to concentrate that. And the same goes for sales. Maybe you use the tool initially for sales enablement, and later on, you start using the CRM for, you migrate one pipeline and then another one. So you can do all of that in stages instead of doing it once, but definitely you want to collect all that data in one place. That doesn't mean that you will stop using other tools, but ideally, those other tools will integrate to some level with your collection set point, in this case, HubSpot, so you can also get those events or data points and you can make your reporting richer, right? So definitely you want to explore that. Then we will cover the managing portion, right? And where I will give you some examples, very quick examples of making sure that you're organizing the data in the right way from the beginning. And finally, obviously, the key of the conversation today will be, well, how do I visualize the data in a way that allows me to answer proper questions, right? And you apply that information to decisions and to make good choices. Muy bien. I'm sorry, I switched to Spanish here. So let us unpack that part, the object data. And this is key to understand before diving into the reporting. CRM, and I will say that all of them, some of them, they don't have it explicitly that way, but all of them are really organizing objects, right? Models of reality, in this particular case, of the processes that a company runs to generate demand. And so those objects have relationships between them and they're stored in the CRM so you can manage them. And HubSpot is no different, right? So HubSpot is a database in a nutshell, and it holds the information of certain objects that are very common across industries. And on top of that, if you want to, you can create more. But those custom objects or additional objects will be the topic of another presentation. Is by itself a large topic as well. So here are some examples of the typical objects that are on default by the CRM, right? And what they represent. And this is the important thing, right? Is always remember that these systems are just representing reality. They don't hold everything that you can possibly know or that is real for those objects that they're representing. And that's the part where you need to use your intuition and some assumptions, because some of that information do not exist on the CRM and sometimes will never be part of the CRM, right? But in a nutshell, for example, depending on the configuration of your company, definitely you need people, right? So people is represented by contacts. and obviously can be used to do different activities such as email marketing if you have the emails, or build lists for advertising, or similar activities, right? Everything related to people, it will be represented on contacts, and you will have for them both information about them and information about their behavior, right? Both of them. So behavior will be, example, visits on the website or engagement on social media. Then you have companies that represent organizations, which is typically very important for B2B companies because they typically work with accounts rather than one individual, right? So, and here you can see the first relationship or association that is pretty common, which is one, two, or three more people will belong at least to one organization. And sometimes organizations themselves have relationship between each other, right? Like a parent company and related companies, or a conglomerate, or a group, or something like that. So you have organizations, and very similarly to people, you will have properties that describe the firm, like the industry, the revenue, the number of employees, similar things. And you will have properties that describe behavior, like people from the organization visiting the website, or news or changes on the organization that are not necessarily tied to a specific person. Then, because of the nature of CRMs, usually you will have something that represents a potential sale, an opportunity, and in the case of HubSpot, is called deals, right? And these are opportunities for sales that are used or tied to sometimes specific companies or contacts or people, and usually both, right? So what happens over time is a company will have one, two, or three deals across time that will be associated with the same company, maybe, but with different people in the organization, either because someone changes work, or because different departments end up engaging with your company. And deals represent that. And very similarly, you have things about the deal, like the pipeline, the opportunity size, the stage, and you have behaviors, right? Like a contract being signed, or a proposal being sent, or a payment being done. So those are things that you can track with that object. Tickets is relevant, especially valuable after someone makes a purchase, and they represent the activities of customer success, right? So customers request, and it can be anything related to the onboarding process, but as well just as regular support. Someone has a problem, they want to be solved, and you want to track the process of that, right? From the request up to the completion. And obviously it has associated at least a company, typically a deal, because this is a customer and you are engaging with that person or more. And another good example, finally, will be products. These are the goods or services that your company sells. And you can see here as well that you will have properties that describe the product, and properties that describe event or changes, like prices or association with deals or with people, price tables, quotes, similar things. So um, that doesn't mean that you are only restricted to working with the default objects that HubSpot bring. You can create additional ones, right? And while we will not cover that today, think about, for example, if you were a dealership company, and maybe, yes, you have products and services, but you want to track the cars themselves, right? Their status, if they're coming, if they're going, their stage or whatever. So you can create an additional object that represents those cars or houses, or if you have projects and you need to do track of the project itself in the implementation, one of the objects can be the project. And you can come up with many, many other things. So as long as you have that idea of the object, their properties, and the association with the rest of the project of the objects, you can create new more. And the other key concept is that the properties of an object describe it, but usually that object transform or changes over time. And those changes are considered events, right? And so events are things that happen across a timeline and are associated typically to one object, and sometimes many more, right? Like a website visit, or an advertising interaction, or the change of the status on a ticket will be examples of those changes. So once you have that concept of objects, properties, events filled out, then now you can start talking about the records. And right, and so using some examples from coding, these objects are the representation, but when you make them real, when you create one individual out of the set, uh, you, I think the word is instance it, then you have a record, right? It's the actual company. So this is your IBM, this is your Microsoft, Apple, or this is John Smith, or whatever person work at that company, or this is the ticket associated with IBM for John Smith for the deal on April 23. Right. So this is actual information that follows the pattern that is described on the object. And it will be part of the database. Those are the number of contacts that you have, the number of companies you are tracking, and similar things. Um, Also important to remember is that within a record or within an object, you can create more properties than the ones that come by default. And I will cover some of those examples as well so you can see the difference. So that way you customize or you map your CRM through the particular implementation of your company, right? I always say that uh, it will not be okay for you to adapt your process to your CRM. It has to be the other way around, right? The tool that you're using should adapt or reflect as much as possible the way that you do business, the way that your processes work. And the way that you do that is with custom objects. And in this particular case, with custom properties, things that are related or unique to your object, to your companies, to your contacts that usually don't come by default on the CRM, right? And so we will cover some of those different properties here. They can have different kinds. For example, it can be a text, a number, a date for a creation date, even a HubSpot user. If, for example, you are assigning a deal to a sales rep and you have another one, another person that is supporting that person, and you want to track all the names of the company, employees are entering and getting out of the company, you can use a HubSpot user property to do that. So you can even calculate properties based on other ones. So you can do calculations depending on the portal that you have. So I'm gonna dive into creating those custom reports and walking through some of those properties. So I have here my portal, actually. And one way that you can get a quick and very helpful view of the objects and the properties and the associations that you have for your portal, if you have it available, is to dive into your HubSpot data model here, right? So the way that you you visualize this is you go to your portal, and if you have it available, you will go to reports, and the data management section will have this data model. And I happen actually to have the walkthrough or the tour. So I will just walk you through what's going on here. You can see that I have on our CRM, we have 4 objects. We have our companies, we have our contacts, we have our deals and tickets. Um, and you can see there are some lines that represent the associations between them, right? So you can see here, for example, let me walk you through it, that there's going to be an explanation about the objects, the records, and the properties, right? So in this particular case, we are showing the record of a fictitious person, which is a customer. And then they will have associations between customers and deals and similar things. And you will be able to see here the objects that you have, what they represent, and what they call the superpowers, right? And how you can create additional objects if you wanted to and you have access to, right? So this is going to be an example of one of them. And I will click on contacts, and now you can see that I will have a great detail about the contact property. So in contact, the object record. So in this case, this object have 285 properties, and here are some examples of those properties, right? Average page view and the field type. This is a number. Annual revenue for the company associated with that person, and this is a single line text. And you can see, for example, that there's average Zoom webinar attendance. That's an integration with Zoom. So that's the part that I was saying, that if you integrate more tools, then those tools usually add properties to some of the objects, and then you can use that for reporting purposes, right? You can also see the associations that are created between the objects. So there's association between contact and company, and there are similar associations between contact and deals, and contact and tickets, right? So you can learn about the model that you have right now, and use it to build more of those reports. So dive into the data model. I think is quite helpful. You can see here the properties and all that, right? And I will just give you quick view of the settings on the properties. So if you want to dive into the properties for a specific object, I just click here on the data model. But the way that you get there is you click here the sprocket or the gear, and then go to the data management section and click objects and pick one, right? In this particular case, companies, and you click here on the setup, manage company properties, and this will be the organization that you have. So these are all the properties. Most of them are created by HubSpot, and they are by default organized in groups, so you can make sense of them more easily, right? Like company activity, this will be a behavior. This will be more of a description, company information. These are properties related to the point of conversion when they fill forms and similar things, engagement on social media, and so forth. So these groups are created by default, and you can create additional ones, right? And within those groups, you will have the properties themselves, right? So I will show you an example here. And that property will have a field type. Sometimes they can or cannot have rules, and they're going to be used in different places of the portal, like lists, forms, and similar things. And so usually the ones that HubSpot created, you can edit, or if you can, you will have some limitations, but you can create your own, right? And assign them a group and describe them and assign them a field type, right? And while we will not cover that in detail today, this will give you an idea of the data that you have available for reporting purposes, right? So you have that. Now, let us dive finally into the actual reporting thing, how it happens. So the way that you access your reports is you click here on reports, and you click on reports, right? Quite easily. And in this section, you will be able to see all the reports that you already have, right? And there's a hierarchy for or a way of organizing these reports within HubSpot. The way that they organize is by dashboard. Think of dashboard as groups of reports that have a common theme. For example, you can say, well, I want to have a bunch of reports about marketing activity, or a bunch of reports about sales activity. Then you will have a dashboard for that. And within the dashboard, you will add one or more of those reports. And there are some reports that HubSpot provide automatically for you, and there's some others that you can create, and that those are the ones that we're going to cover in more detail right now. So here you will have that library, right? You will see the reports that you have created, and a little bit of the description of how they work, and who is the owner of that report, and you will be able to organize them into the dashboards that they belong to. For example, you can see that we have the website visit metric dashboard here, and so some of those reports belong to that, right? This is technically your library, right? And so how does that look like? If you click here on the sprocket, or you click on the report menu and then dashboards, then you will be able to see the dashboards that you have, right? Here. And so this is an example of a dashboard, right? You can see you have different reports. You can drag and drop. You have a general filter for them. So you can filter all reports at the same time by date, by owners, by teams. In the case of reports that are related to pipelines, you can filter by pipelines. And those related to customer success, you can filter by tickets. And so they will have, usual commonalities in terms of visuals like tables and similar things, and you can filter. One of the great things about reports in general is that you can always drill down on the data automatically. And that's part of the reasons I like them better than, for example, things that you build on PowerPoint or spreadsheets where you cannot drill down within the presentation most of the time. So here, that's not the case. Most of the data you can always drill down and learn more, or you can filter in real time, right? So, for example, here, if I don't want to see order campaigns and I want to focus on maybe organic and paid traffic, I can filter and just look at that data in that particular case. And again, everything is can drill down. I'm not showing a report here on contacts or companies, but when you have that, then you will be able to drill down on specific contact names or specific companies, and you can even click on that contact or company and learn even more. So it's a great way to get visuals on a high altitude, and they'll drill down to the things that matter when you are presenting to management, right? You can communicate these dashboards in different ways. Obviously, a user can just log in and see them, or you can also share them using an external URL, or even email them in a more traditional way. Obviously, on the email, you will not have the interaction, but the user can just click on the email and come here and do some things. You can even, depending on the portal that you have, add additional things to make it to enrich the dashboard. For example, you can add images or text or video, right? If you want to customize or add some messages explaining the story that you're telling on the dashboard, you can create that. You can even add the URL of another reporting tools, Data Studio or Databox, or any other reporting tools that you might be using, to make a more compelling story if you want to. So very helpful on the reports or the dashboard in this particular case. But now again, if for whatever reason you want to start here, one of the easiest ways is just to create an additional report. And Hops will have hundreds of ready-made reports that they call templates, right? And so you will have this view, and you can see the reports that HubSpot already have created for you on this section. And because there are hundreds of them, the easiest way to navigate them is to select a data source, right? So this will start making sense. You will see that you will have the data from the CRM and from other parts of the portal, like the inboxes for messages or marketing or websites. So kind of like the hubs. And you can see that most of the time, what they are calling a source is a type of object or a collection of events, right? So, for example, you can say, well, I want to see reports that are related to the contact object, and it will filter out reports that are related to contacts, right? Or you can see companies, right? Target accounts are not truly a new object, they are just a subset of companies. You can see deals here, right? And similar things. So we in the data model that we are not seeing all available objects. There are more that are not put on the model. But for example, you have subscriptions, which are an object by itself. So you can select a source. You can also filter by visualization, right? So if you're looking for a vertical bar report, or you're looking for a funnel, right? This is the part that I was telling you that unfortunately those funnels are available for deals and for contacts, but not for companies, which I think is an opportunity. You can see tables, you can see KPIs, so different models or different ways of looking at data, right? So if you pick one, let me pick website activity, right? If you pick one, like this one, you don't have to just add the report as it is. You can change the things and how it shows some data depending on the configuration of your portal and the level that you have, right? For example, you have the source here, and you can select some of the sources only, right? Not all of them. So it changes the way the report looks like. You can change the range on the dates. Here on the report later, you have a little bit like an about section, and you can customize it even more. and look at the source of the data itself, right? For example, in this one, you can see that the chart type is a pie and is using data from the property called original source, which is a contact data, a contact property, and is counting the number of contacts, right? And so that's the source of the data. And there's additionally a filter, and that filter is the time frame that in this case is the last 30 days. And if you click here, you can see the actual data for that. So these the actual records that are composing or creating this visualization, right? So you can customize those. There's some extra things that you can do here. You can see that depending on the visualization, you can sort, you can hide some data labels, and you can change the color pattern, right? The scheme or the theme of that reference. So it's still, while it is a standard report, there's a lot of things that you can customize, and that will be quite helpful for you. So I always recommend that you start with these standard reports, and once you get familiar with them, then you can start creating your own, right? So, and that's what I'm going to do now. So if you want to create your own reports, I usually recommend using the custom report builder, right? And I will walk you through the idea. It is a tool that requires a little bit of time, especially understanding all those objects and properties and all that. But at least here you will have an idea of the possibilities, and then you can explore on your own how to use them. So you click on Custom Report Builder, right? And the way that you navigate this is remembering those objects and associations things. So, for example, let us put an example. Imagine that I want to know um, how many companies I'm adding to the CRM on a monthly basis. That's a simple question. So I know that I'm talking about companies. So my primary object will be companies. I have selected here. And I will make it simple. So I will not add any other object to make associations. I could, and I will, but at this time I would just do that. So I have the companies, and then I click next. And this is pre-selecting the vertical bar, which I'm happy with or okay with, as the way that is going to visualize the data. And here on the left panel, I have all the properties available for the object company, right? And because I'm selecting vertical bar, then I will have an X axis and a Y axis, and I can break down the information, and I have access to some filters. But let me just do it right way. So my data point is the number of companies, right? The number of companies on a given month. And usually this custom report builder will present to you the properties that are used the most on creating reports. In this particular case, count of companies is the one that you want to have, and you simply drag it here, very similar to what you will do on Excel or a similar spreadsheet. And obviously, because I just drag the whole number of companies, it's just giving me the total. I can click on the companies and I will see the list. Um, there you go, right? But this is not as helpful. Now, I want to know the number of companies created per month or per quarter. So I need a date. And here are some of the properties that I have. And the way that you can navigate this is that you can look at the data type here. So ABC usually is text based. This little candle here is a calendar one. Numbers, you can see the hashtag. So I'm looking for this one, the create date. But if you don't want to scroll through all the properties and you have an idea of what you're looking for, then you can just put something like date, and probably will give you all the properties that reflect the date. And here you can see that if you scroll to the default properties and you don't find what you're looking for, and you want to start tracking that, that's when you will create that custom property and add it to forms, add into the process of creating a company, so you can start accumulating that data over time. But in this particular case, we have it. So we take the create date, we drag it here, and now we have change, right? Now we have spread out those companies across the whole timeline of this CRM that we have had for many, many years. And so now automatically selected the frequency as monthly. but you can change that, right? You can change a lot of rules on this, but you can say, well, I want to see the information quarterly because this is a long time frame, and it will make it easier to see, right? So very convenient. And as I was saying, you can always drill down, right? You can say, well, I have 16 companies. Can you tell me which companies are those? And you can drill down here. And if you want to, you can just click on one of them, right? And go and see the record, which is quite helpful. So that's one thing that you can do. But on top of that, for example, for this particular record, you can break down the information, but something that is meaningful to you. For example, usually companies want to know the industry, right, of those companies. So you can use the breakdown by, and what it will do, you can see it here now, is breaking down the data by the industry. And then I can filter out that. So for example, let me say that I want to focus on the automotive ones, maybe chemicals and computer. Um, there's a lot of them, so maybe it's not the best of the options, but you can see what's happening, right? As I remove them, they are they are disappearing from the mix, right? And actually the ones that have the most are the ones that have no value. But you can see that if I drill down the data, now I have both, right? I have the records and also the value itself. So that's sometimes helpful if you want to do export that information and work it on Excel. But you can drill down or you can break down with whatever information you want to do. Now, you can apply on these filters, right? So, for example, one useful filter might be, well, I have a bunch of industries here. I don't want to look at all of them. So, you can take the same one. Actually, it's already here, and you want to apply a filter. And for example, let's say that I want to focus on computer and network, and I will add also automotive. There you go. And there you go. It's refreshing. You can see, very silly, but now I'm only seeing the companies that got created that belong to the automotive and computer security networks. And you don't have to use as a filter one of the fields that you have. You can use something else. Like for example, here, let us say that I want to filter by company size. So that will be employee count, number of employees. I'll drag here and let's say that I want to know that is greater than or equal to maybe 50 employees. And there you go. So now I'm looking at all the companies that have been created over time per quarter by industry, filter out the companies that are larger than 50 employees or more, right? So a lot of flexibility here that you have. And this is just one example of using the one property. I want to do one more example before jumping into questions. Let me leave that page. And is that you can create a report that mix information from two sources. So let me use the example here. Imagine that you say, I want to know the number of website visits that we have per company per date, right? How they have spread out. So I have companies and now I want to know how many times they have visited the website across the time. So I need companies, right? And now I will have web activities, which is the object or the group of events that I want to track. And you can see here that the data is going to be put together, it's going to be joined. And so here I click next. And now I have the company properties, right? And then I have the website activities, the events. And you can see that also pull the contacts object. And the reason is, I believe, is because the visits are associated to contacts, not to companies. And then from there, from the association between contacts and companies, then you can drag the information about the companies themselves. So in this particular case, I'm looking for page views. That will be my Y, right? Data point. and obviously there's a bunch of them. Um, let us put here year of data. Right, there's going to be a bunch of them. And the way that I would spread it out across time is that in this particular case, I'm looking for the date where the visit happened, right? So that's called the timestamp, which is not a very intuitive name, but that's the name, right? So now I have the visits I spread out across the months in this particular case, but I don't know the companies, right? So, for example, in this one, I can also use the industry as an example of a way of breaking down the information. So I look for the industries. You can see that industries is not a property of website visits. It's not even a property of the contacts. It's a property of the companies. But because I have joined the information, then I can pull from, well, the website visits belong to this contact belong to this company, and this company has this industry. And now I have a report that show me website visits per industry, or, per month, breakdown by industry, right? So that will be the way that you can present that information. And obviously you can filter timelines and add, filter industries or company sizes, and you can use different configurations. But will give you an idea of how powerful these reports can become, because you can join all that information and you have all these data sources, right? Uh, Data from the CRM, data from the marketing activities, data from sales and from customer success. So you can see why people get excited about integrating or adding all these things to HubSpot, because the more data that you can put on one place, the more that you can create those associations and tell a story among those objects, right? So with that, I will stop sharing, right? And I don't know, we have some questions.
Not at the time. I remember that I told you guys that questions and answers chat is available, but there's none
All
at the
righty.
moment.
All right. I see you. Oh, yeah. So I was looking at something else. Well, I'm happy that we had this presentation. Hopefully, you draw some value from it, and we will having another one next month. What will be the topic, Gabby?
Yes. For our next month, it's website optimization and how to increase page performance and more.
So it will be CMS time, right? We will cover website optimization, usually conversion optimization, and things that you can do to improve the chances that those unknown contacts or visitors that you have on your website become known to your organization. So it will be a good one. We will send you the summary of this presentation today with some resources that you can dive into to learn more about reporting, and the video as well. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you at the next one. And until then, any questions that you may have, there's a community on HubSpot that we have for Greenville HUG, and Gabby is always listening there. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and we will be more than happy to share what we know.
Yeah, I just want to tell you guys that I'm really happy and excited to be here. Our community is growing, so I just want to give you a friendly reminder too that you can comment here or in the chat, or contact us and make suggestions for topics that or tools in HubSpot that you want to discuss or learn about. Please feel free to do it, and we are going to take it very seriously, because this is the main objective about everything that we're doing right now. So these events, we're here to provide you with valuable information. So please feel free to do it, and we're here to listen to you.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone. Bye bye.
Goodbye.